What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday, Microsoft released their financial results for Q2 of the current fiscal year that we're in now, and that does cover the Xbox Series X and the Series S launch, as well as give us some more insight into how their subscription services are going with Game Pass and Xbox Live. We'll go over that and see how the Xbox brand is doing right now. Also, we're going to talk about PS5 scalpers, as it looks like they're getting more and more creative. We just talked about how in the UK, gamers were able to get PlayStation 5 systems, at least that's what the software sales said, but it seemed that some of these PlayStation 5 scalpers were able to get the PlayStation 5 basically before they even went live for sale. And we are also going to talk about a new Nintendo Switch console edition, as well as a Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new to the Small Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Project 007 from IO Interactive. I was very excited when this was announced, even though we don't have a lot right now to go on. We saw that trailer, and let's face it, a lot of people got hyped to see 007 come back after 007 Legends. We don't really talk about that one anymore, but we did get a bit more information here, and we can go over to Gaming Bolt, where it says, speaking to DR.DK, studio director Hakan Abric spoke about the upcoming game, going on a bit further to mention they could easily imagine that a trilogy could come out of it. That's right. This might not just be a one-off thing. And they also mentioned that their workforce is increasing, going from 200 up to 400 developers. And they are mentioning that their 007 character, I guess, will be original, as it won't be based on any previous likenesses for different actors that we've seen before. So I almost wonder if this is just going to be like a full reboot of 007, and they're just going to handle it from there with a new story, obviously a new cast there, I guess. So interesting to hear more about this one after the success of Hitman 3 and what they're able to do with that franchise. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what they can do with 007. I don't think it can be exactly like what we saw with Hitman. It'll have to be more action-oriented, I think, whereas Hitman is more methodical, you're a lot more patience involved there. It's slower. 007 at times will probably have elements of that, but then other times it'll just be off-the-wall mayhem and action. So it'll be interesting there to see IO even pivot a bit to do something like that. But exciting stuff. Is just going to be probably several years before we see this 007 game in action. Also, we have a couple of game updates to go over here. Let's jump over to Eurogamer. They say, developer Daedalic Entertainment's Lord of the Rings Gollum will no longer release this year as originally announced. It is now due to arrive on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC in 2022. And I have to be honest, I kind of forgot about this game. They showed a trailer originally, and it was like, oh, it's going to be this Lord of the Rings Gollum game that they're going to show off. And then they said, oh, it's a PS5 game. People got really excited. You remember this? For this trailer they showed, and people were like, I mean, I guess that looks better, right? It's a PS5 game, yeah. And then more and more games for next gen, whether it's Microsoft or PlayStation, were shown, and I feel like this one got put on the back burner a bit. I mean, I'm sure there's still Lord of the Rings fans out there that are excited for the idea of this game, but I just know it was really, really hot there for like a day, and then it just kind of like disappeared. And it looks like now we'll have to wait until next year to see it release. And as for our other gaming update, we now have a release date for Biomutant. Do you remember this one? Because at Gamescom, they showed off quite a bit of gameplay for it. And this was a couple of years ago, and I thought that meant that they were about to release it, like it might come out in even 2019, and then that came and went. I was like, okay, maybe 2020, still nothing. Now, though, it looks like it'll be out in just a couple of months. We can go over here. This says Biomutant is coming to PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on May 25th, 2021. There's no mention of a PS5 or an Xbox Series X or S version. I assume this is going to be one of those cases that runs through backwards compatibility, maybe gets a patch down the line, and it'll just run better out of the gate on the next gen systems, or even current gen, I guess we can call them now. But this game, from what they showed off, looks interesting enough. Big, I guess, action adventure, open world RPG style game, and that's really all I can say about it right now. I am going to pick this one up and see what we get from it. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the podcast that week. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Microsoft and their most recent earnings report. They put this out yesterday, and we're going to go over to some of the key points here. Remember, this covers their holiday season, so this would be October, November, and December for them. Let's take a look. It says revenue was $43.1 billion. It increased 17%. Yeah, think about that for a minute. Just in 3 months, as Microsoft would have made $43.1 billion. However, their net income was $15.5 billion. That's an increase of 33%. So yes, in 3 months, Microsoft made 2 Bethesda's worth and put that in the bank. So yes, when I say Microsoft isn't exactly like, we got to make all this Bethesda money back immediately, well, they made it back twice in 3 months. So I've told you before, I believe that Bethesda deal that they did with ZeniMax is more of a long play, and they're not looking to make it back in the short term right away. But if we go over to their gaming revenue, is up 51%. Xbox content and services revenue increased 40%, and their Xbox hardware revenue grew 86%. That, of course, being from the Xbox Series X and S launch. Now, I don't think that's shocking to anyone because, like, the Xbox One was barely selling before the Series X and the S came out because everyone was just waiting to buy the next gen console. Why would you buy an Xbox One a month or two even the year before when we started to hear about next gen and the Xbox One wasn't exactly flying off store shelves? That didn't help much either. So yes, to see an 86% jump, it was kind of expected. Now afterwards, they did have a conference call to go over some more information. We can see Daniel Ahmed did talk about this, saying Xbox Game Pass now has 18 million subscribers, according to Satya Nadella, and that's on the Microsoft earnings conference call. Also from the conference call, $2 billion in revenue from third-party content this quarter, leaves around $1.5 billion for first-party content subscriptions, 100 million Xbox Live monthly active users for PC, mobile, and console, and the best launch month for Xbox console, that being the Series X and the S, and goes on a bit further to say Microsoft says that Xbox Series X and S supply will still be constrained through the end of this quarter at a minimum, the quarter ending March 31st, 2021, which makes sense. I believe we heard before, it was either from Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, or someone at Microsoft said that they would probably have issues getting these systems into stores through April. Now, Microsoft doesn't exactly talk about the number of consoles that they sell. They more or less focus on their subscription stuff, their monthly active users. And while Sony will also talk about that, and even Nintendo will talk about their online subscriptions, their Nintendo Switch online service, if they're asked, they will go off and talk about their console sales because they're typically pretty good. Microsoft is just not as focused on that right now. So they'll talk about things like 100 million monthly active users on their Xbox Live service. That's pretty high. That is a lot. Now, look, they're also counting quite a bit of people that probably aren't paying for Xbox Live. See PC Mobile, and if you're just signed in at some point and use it during the month, even if it was just once, you're in that pool of 100 million. But it does make things look a lot better on their side as a subscription-based company. Game Pass Ultimate going up about 3 million subscribers from September when they reported 15 million is, okay, 1 million a month, and that still is part of their launch for the holidays. I feel like it could have been a bit higher than that, but if they had something like Halo Infinite, that would have driven these subscriptions. Without that, it would have been a lot harder, and obviously it was. So I think as they do get these studios rolling and they get these bigger games like a Halo Infinite out, they will be able to push Game Pass a lot easier. But from what they reported, their gaming revenue up 51% at Microsoft, the Xbox division up 40%, and their hardware is back on track, being up 86% with their Game Pass Ultimate continuing to grow. Yeah, Microsoft and the Xbox is in a pretty good place right now, starting off this new generation. Now they just gotta get those studios going, get some of these games out, and they can continue to push things even further. Next up, let's talk about a new Nintendo Switch console edition and that new Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Yeah, let's go over here to some of the images because this was announced. It is indeed a Monster Hunter Rise Special Edition Nintendo Switch console. You know what? It looks pretty good. I gotta say, there are a lot of pictures here. Nintendo put this out on their website. It does appear, at least at this time, to be a system only in Japan. And I believe this is something that happened with the PlayStation 4 Pro or PlayStation 4 when they did it for Monster Hunter World. I believe that was only in Japan. But this, you can see here, has the same gray color scheme that we've seen with the Switch. So we don't have any fancy dock or Joy-Cons, nothing like that. But they did at least etch some of the different symbols in there. And I love the gold accents actually on the front there. This system is going to release March 26, 2021. No surprise there. It will be going for 38,400 yen, which is roughly translated to $370. And that kind of makes sense because it will have the game in there. That's right. This is something that's really good to see because occasionally Nintendo will have these special edition consoles and the game won't be in there. Looks like Capcom saying, no, it has to be. And that will be installed, ready to go, preloaded on the system. And there will also be an additional content download code leaflet that they outline here with several different things from the Monster Hunter Rise Deluxe kit. But that's not all with just the console. We also have a Pro controller to look forward to. That will be out March 26th alongside of it, 7,480 yen, so just over $70. And this will all be up for pre-order February February 27th, 2021. Now, looking at this, it's been a while since I've picked up a themed Pro Controller that I have not reshelled myself. That was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So yeah, it's been a little while. There was the Smash Brothers Ultimate one. I didn't get that one. This one though, looks good. Like I like the look of it overall with the gold accent on the front. Still kind of has that stock look to it with the nice etchings and accent. And yeah, I think I'm gonna grab the Pro Controller. I think I'll pass on the system for now. That one's gonna be, I feel like that one's gonna be kind of tough to get anyway. This is going to really catapult Monster Hunter Rise even further. Look, Monster Hunter Rise is already huge in terms of pre-order numbers from what's being said right now in Japan, and then you put a system alongside of it, it makes sense. It would have been them leaving money on the table to not do this, and really, I was surprised they hadn't already announced this system. And unfortunately, I don't think this system is going to be brought to other regions. I feel like they have this big focus right now on Japan for Monster Hunter, and this system they'll want to provide tons of units for, as it's going to see a massive marketing push there in Japan where Monster Hunter is extremely popular. So the good news is, you can import it. The Switch is region free. I am going to attempt to, I guess, import the Pro Controller. We'll see what Amazon Japan does, I guess. I don't know. We'll see how all the pre-orders stuff goes. I'm sure it'll at least show up on eBay for twice what it's worth there, as like the regular Switch systems were still being marked up pretty heavily online throughout the holidays just a month ago. But yeah, pretty cool looking system there. I don't think this would affect anything that would be planned for, like, say, a Switch revision. I saw that come up. That's probably would be coming later in the year. This is something that Nintendo and Capcom wanted to do right alongside Monster Hunter. So if there was no revision ready to go by Monster Hunter, they would do something like this, a special edition Nintendo Switch system. Next up, let's talk about PlayStation 5 scalpers and a loophole that they are exploiting to get PlayStation 5 systems before they even go on sale. And this is something I mentioned that would happen with these subscription services that are popping up all over the place and are advertising heavily as ways to get PS5 systems en masse to then resell and make a bunch of money. Let's go over to Video Games Chronicles, where they break this down, saying it later emerged that members of a paid-for scalper group have been able to purchase and in some cases collect some PS5s from Argos a full 24 hours earlier, thanks to an exploit they discovered allowing them to place orders early. This, as reported by IGN Express, Notify has been publicly taking credit for the Argos loophole. One Twitter user demonstrated how the loophole worked by generating a link from the group's paid-for Discord to purchase a console before traveling to an Argos store to collect it on Monday. Now, Argos did eventually close the loophole, allowing users to place orders early, but it's unclear how many PS5 consoles were claimed before it took action. And it looks like we have a bunch of different tweets showing their success in getting multiple PS5 systems the day before it was even available with that restock. Yeah, that's where we are now. We're already like talking about trying to fight through the bots and the traffic online, and we're like, eventually it'll show up in retail stores. Some people are just showing up to retail stores the day before and they're able to pick it up. That's like if like my local Best Buy or something was gonna do a restock tomorrow and I was already picking it up today because I figured out the link to order it through. It is interesting to me that they were able to pick it up because a lot of times they'll have it set up where it's like do not sell, but I guess because the system is already out in their system, there's not like a street date or something that could be broken or register locked. So I guess if they're able to get this link, which was part of their subscription-based service that you would sign up to, yeah, you can just walk in and pick it up. It's getting harder and harder to get some of these systems. Even though we've seen some success recently, it's just they figure out another way. And that's just Sony has to get more of these systems out there. They really need to continue flooding the market because the demand's there, and just it's getting tough when they can show up early and pick the system up and not even necessarily need a bot to really hit a website really hard. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077 once again, because why not? It looks like they have now officially released modding tools. And we can go over here to their site where they posted this up, saying modding support tools. Below you will find official tools and resources that will help you modify and create your own experiences in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. Tools will be continuously updated alongside with game patches to ensure compatibility. And we can see a couple of different downloads there down below. And this is great. That means that fans can pitch in and help fix Cyberpunk 2077. Well, actually, they've done this before with like The Witcher and some of their games where they would have official mod support, and there were some pretty cool mods that would happen from that. So I think this is more business as usual for them, and I'm happy to see them do that here because we've seen mods already happen on Cyberpunk. Think of the third person mod that's happened, and even some content creation that's been thrown in there. So that's something I'm sure they want to have so that Cyberpunk can continue to be played made and have new content added, even if it's not them necessarily. And I wouldn't say it's as robust as what we've seen with Skyrim, or I guess you could even say in some ways Grand Theft Auto now with some of the memes online, but still, it's something added in. I'm looking at this in my mind thinking, wow, they're really going to have people modify this with official tools when they're just trying to get the game to not break right now. I mean, at least I'm sure we'll see some really cool things come out of it, and it's good that they're officially supporting it rather than trying to shut it down as we've seen with some other companies. So we'll see what comes out of this. If anything, it just makes it easier for people who are already modding the game to do so. And before we go to the comment of the day, let's take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. We can see here, it says, should a Switch Pro revision get its own exclusive games like the new 3DS did? The new 3DS got games like Minecraft and Xenoblade Chronicles that were only available on that hardware. And it looks like overwhelmingly, yes. A lot of people said no, keep games playable on all Switch systems. However, out of the 30,000 votes or so, 32% says that they would not mind games being specifically developed for the stronger hardware. And going through the comments, there were a lot of people saying, you know what, it probably wouldn't make sense for them to do that because of that install size. And yes, that I would say that is that's correct. And there were also a lot of people saying you should add a middle option that's like, oh, well, if it's just upscaled and it's kind of playable, that'd be fine with options. I try to make it as like you got to pick one side or the other when you vote, just to make it a bit more interesting here to see where people will fall on these things. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Crypt saying, wasn't there a game on the PlayStation that used CD catalog data from music CDs to create unique monsters? Like you stuck a Metallica CD in and it gave you a Metallica themed monster. I think it was called, creatively enough, Monster Rancher. Yeah, this was a game on the PlayStation. I never had it, but a friend of mine did. And when I go over there, basically it took a music CD, you popped in, it would read like the number of tracks and the track length of each one, and it would generate a different monster in the game for you to then train and all of this. But it was a really cool idea and super creative. They did take this game and I believe they ported it to phones and Switch. I think all that happened. Unfortunately, you can't put a CD in there. So what they had you do, I believe, is just use the internet and search for different CDs and it would generate a monster that way. Kind of took the fun and just really the intrigue out of it. At the time, you'd go there, I went there and they had like their parents' music CDs and we just go through one at a time and see what we got from each one. It was interesting. And I think even online, early days of the internet, people would post what CD gave you which monster and they would track these CDs down to get that. It was really cool at the time. And unfortunately, I haven't seen creativity like that in a while. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's that Monster Hunter Nintendo Switch Edition console. Are you going to try to import that? Or are you gonna do what I'm doing? I'm just gonna try to grab that Pro controller. We'll see how easy all of that is. Also, what about the reports for Microsoft's earnings around the Xbox? Everything seems to be up and it's a good sign going into this generation, but can Microsoft continue to grow Game Pass Ultimate every single month, heading towards, I would assume, a pretty large number of 40 to 50 million users? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.